wanted it to be the most amazing masquerade ball, and I thought it has to be really twisted, because basically if Dracula threw a masquerade ball, what would it be like? And so I thought it has to be really twisted and weird, and we have to have everything there, flamethrowers and jugglers and high wire acts and tightrope walkers, and I wrote a veritable Cirque du Soleil.
I remember Steve talking to me over the phone, and he said, I've got an idea for the ballroom scene. I wanted to have a kind of feel of Cirque du Soleil, and I thought, I'd just been to see O in Vegas. And I was like, Steve, that's brilliant. So the next draft for the script I get, it is Cirque du Soleil, basically.
Vodka, you're going to start out here. Come.
That's nice.
And we're going to find a way for you to go right through. We have two artists that were formerly with Cirque du Soleil on different shows. Both of them, Patrice Wojciechowski and Laurence Racine, were in Nouvelle Experience. And we have a variety of contortion and more classic juggling acts.
Where's the lines? Dancers, linea, don't see.
I found Deborah Brown, who basically choreographed all the Cirque du Soleils. And we got her to come to Prague and figured it out for us. And it was great. She did a great job. She brought it to life.
The first day I walked into the dancers audition and saw 100 dancers practicing, I was overwhelmed. You are all dead aristocrats. Okay, you've been invited to Dracula's costume ball. So I need to know that you can be aristocrats in your style. They're used to wearing, beautiful things. Ladies, you never put your hands here. You never put your arms here. Arms must always have space. Very pretentious. We've hired almost every single dancer we saw, 100, and I can't tell you what a great city to do a ballroom scene in, because we have found 100 fantastic dancers. Also, we found 17 local circus artists. The intention is to sell yourself on this venue. Your eyes, your hands. Don't be shy, no. It's not the time. It's a big scene, and you have to make sure that you take everything into consideration. But I actually enjoy working with large groups and numbers. It's exciting to see it all take shape.
Slowly bring it up. I need your eyes slowly, like this. Show me. Yes.
There's actually two different waltz rhythms that we have. The opening, which is a typical Viennese waltz. One a lot slower, Dracula's dance, where Dracula actually dances with Anna.
Steve described it very, very well. And the choreographer also spoke to me about where she was headed with it. But I think he really wanted to give himself, and in particular the choreographer, a chance to get a sense of where the musical thought here might be heading. And so we had to do it very early on. I got the guys to go for this concept of a solo soprano. So there's this very exotic, beautiful woman in the scene who's just singing these notes. But the thing you heard was literally maybe 6 or 7 tracks on a synthesizer. But that was just a guide track. It's going to be very different when we do it with our 115-piece orchestra and our soprano soloist and our choir. It's nice to have that to work to, just for a sense of where this is going, rather than just clicks.
turned up and couldn't dance to save my life, and Richard Roxburgh and I were just appalling. I mean, appalling, disgraceful in the rehearsals. Plus, Richie just has a very funny face, and I was laughing mainly throughout the whole thing.
Everyone, where would you like to see it from?
Should we do the top? Should we go from the very top?
Go from the very top?
Right when we come through the doors, and you're the first song,
Okay.
as we come through the door and come up, we'll see, we'll come low, see all the jugglers and acrobats we're putting in. We'll start to tilt up, we'll see the contortionist, we'll place her just right. As we start to come up, the stilt walker should be coming through the room towards us.
I'll put the ball in front of them then.
First of all, I think how difficult this is going to be to shoot. I never think about, oh, isn't this great that I wrote it, now it's going to be hitting the celluloid now. I'm basically thinking, how the hell am I going to shoot all this stuff? Okay, so let's do one, let's just look at it from the beginning.
Okay, so everyone, this is Stephen Summers, the
Hi.
director.
Hi, everyone.
Oh, Steve. This is our ballroom gang. Okay.
All right. It's all, Deborah, it's all lumped. It's all a big lump.
Okay. Okay. We rehearsed it in very tight formation. Dancers, they have to be aware he's going to come through. They have to open. We're not aware. But obviously the camera they need people in certain places, so the dancers have had to be very flexible. So you have to tell the dancers, be careful because Vota will pass in front of you. So they just have to be careful and go a little bit slower. Okay?
Key is always to, try to take the film into the world that the story's about. Going to Eastern Europe, to Prague, which, 150 years ago when the story took place, it would have been Transylvania.
You can't build St. Nicholas's Church, you can't pay for that sort of set. It really does make the film so distinctive and extremely special. If you duplicated this kind of set, it just wouldn't look real. No one would believe you. This is probably the most extraordinary building in Prague. Everything you can see on camera that is on the walls is it. I mean, we weren't allowed to add anything, not that we'd want to. Just the candles and the people and the orchestra and the nice lunch behind me. That's about it.
How long did it take you to build this set, Alan?
To build this set? About 700 years.
Everybody marked. Here we go. And playback. Ready, and door.
Really proud of what we did there. It was really remarkable. In fact, when you say the Masquerade Ball, which part? There's so many different things that happen in that, and it's an enormous scene. And I'm trying to remember the number of days we filmed, but I'm still astounded by what was accomplished in there.
It's still an amazing sort of work of art, and so to be allowed to use a national treasure in that way, to sort of rampage through it with a film crew, is a rare privilege that may not exist for too much longer.
That was a really extraordinary set. I mean, partly because it was a real place. It was also, I think, the coldest I've ever been in my life. It was colder inside that church than it actually was outdoors, I think because of the stone and everything. So I was mainly concerned with that. I'm glad that we didn't all look blue.
Good, except for our final. It's beautiful, and it's gigantic, and it's everything that we had hoped for this sequence. There were many, many restrictions that were placed on us in using the location.
It was a deconsecrated church. Nevertheless, we had to be massively careful of upsetting anybody or moving anything because the religious artifacts, of course, are still dotted about.
A lot of the religious stuff is being covered up, the fact that there are altars and so on, with drapes, and it's the restrictions on us as to what we can, rig to, which is very little, evidently. Are we doing anything with this paint color in here? Will this be dark enough? Let us paint.
Not as far as I know. Okay, better keep the light off.
Are we talking about hanging drapes? Hanging drapes.
Okay. Hang drapes. If there was a bishop holding a crozier, we had to wrap gold around his hat to make him look maybe slightly like an Indian prince, something like that. So we use lots of plastic, and we use lots of shields, and we use lots of drapes and all sorts of oddments to try and art department it. including taking out the pews, of course, to turn it into a dance floor.
All the candelabras we had made ourselves, and the prop department came up with these candles. And it's one of those filmic things. The last thing you want to be doing is saying, "Oh, hold on, we've got to go and light 150 candles. Can you hold the film?" You know, you can't. We never want them waiting for us. We want to be ahead of the game at all times. It looks fabulous when all the candles are lit. It really does. It looks superb. And of course, it's also sensitive to where we are, so it's ideal.
I don't know how the chemistry all came together. They got all excited about the script or the project or, you know, working together. But to have, you know, the production designer, Alan Cameron, and the cinematographer, Alan Davio, and the costume designer, Gabriella Pascucci, all three of them, like, at the top of their game. Just, I don't know, they magically all came together and just got it. And I think they've done their best work. So here's the thing. If I'm shooting this way, and even back, I probably won't notice the two tables. Or if we do, we just move them back. Yeah, like, this could be somewhere else.
Yeah, absolutely. Steven's so enthusiastic and creative about it all that you sort of ratchet yourself up to try and get up to that level of energy, which is a great process.
But I'm just going to ask you, in the sense that, is that a good thing for you? Because then you don't have to...
Well, the only thing is the table up there is gloriously backlit, and it's you've got a lot of nice things there, but I understand what you're saying. You want to be able to shoot, you know, would be reverse. So, you know, you have individual moments that you do really appreciate for themselves, but mostly when you go into a situation like that, it's pulling off the whole thing of making it a real place and putting people in there and letting their imaginations go wild. I think that is the real achievement for a cinematographer, and pointing at one individual thing or another usually is not it. In the end, what you really appreciate is it's all part of the magic.
La parrucchiera, cazzarola. Che ne so, lo so.
I think it's good. It worked.
You don't have to rub it in, but yes, Van Helsing does have a marvellous costume. And I get stuck with a jester's outfit.
This movie is interesting because I start that from the period, but I have the possibility to go with the fantasy. I can fly with the fantasy. That is important for me. There is a lot extra, and everybody is black, dark, gold. And Steven wanted that Anna was the surprise for help us, the color in this case.
We just thought it would be great to make her stand out because Dracula's basically made her belle of the ball there. And I think that visually it's just worked out extremely well.
How does it feel to be a puppet on my string?
I won't let you trade me, Count.
I have no intention of trading you. If I know Van Helsing, which I do, he's not planning on making a trade either. Neither of us has ever settled for half.
Dracula swings her over, and this is where we see that Dracula has no reflection in the mirror. And by the way, we may notice that no one else in the entire ballroom has a reflection either.
In this stuff with the mirror, is it going to be me in a blue thong, spray painted blue?
Yes, we'll do one take with you in a blue thong. That's good.
Spray painted.
That's right, isn't it?
That's correct. Yeah.
That is correct.
With the blue contact lenses.
Yes, the blue thong, nothing else, just the blue thong. You want to do one take like that, and then...
and then the other, like normal.
As a visual effects supervisor on the set, I have to make sure that everything's photographed correctly, because that's the first stage of a great special effects shot. In this case, the first thing we do is lay out with Steven what the shot's going to be, and then we have our match movers set up, and in this case, since we're dealing with a large set that's very organic looking, we're using a transit system, so we take measurements off of everything. Because what will happen is, especially in Steven's movies, the camera is always moving, and we have to go back on the computer and make a computer camera that matches that exact motion, so no matter what we stick in the scene, it looks like it was there originally. So that's key to the process.
I'm looking for a new bride, Anna. Someone strong and beautiful.
This morning we shot with Anna leaning back on a pedestal.
Here we go. Come on, fellas, over the top. Playback.
And so we'll remove that pedestal and it'll look like she's floating in midair as Dracula's holding on to her. And of course you only see her reflection in it, even though you're seeing them both in the foreground. And we boom back and we end up seeing all these other dancers in that same scene.
Don't we make a lovely couple?
Oh my God.
I am looking for a new bride. Someone strong and beautiful.
So we photographed that with all that action, including seeing the camera in the mirror. And then we photographed with just Kate doing her move as if she's dancing by herself. And we'll use bits and pieces of her to paint back in where Richard was holding her. And then we also shot what we call a clean plate without anybody in the scene, because we have to go through and paint out where all the other dancers are as well. So in the finished scene, she'll be dancing by herself. So that means that we have to replace everything in the mirror.
Okay, here we go. Let's do it. So let's cut that out. She says, you have no heartbeat, and then you go down. Perfect.
This is a really fun shot to work on, where Dracula's just dipped Anna, and his mouth kind of distends into, and opens and reveals these big vampire fangs. We're going to be integrating CG elements on a live-action face. We have tracking markers on the face. With those dots, we can track those and animate a 3D mesh to that face and kind of capture the kind of same rotation and motion that's happening in live-action plate. It's a 2D background plate, but then the actual elements themselves have to be generated in 3 dimensions. So the mesh itself is a 3D recreation of the face. The jaw is then modeled based on kind of connecting these points in space. So in the actual composite, what we're able to do is kind of track a mesh onto this plate and stretch the mouth open using kind of a deformation. So you can kind of grab points on this mesh and open it or animate it however you want, kind of slide it around. The mouth inside actually is a separate piece which has been modeled and rendered and animated. So once that render is completed, then I can slide it into this composite underneath this mouth and kind of reveal it as we move these points of the face around. Carl bumps into the flamethrower. He's just kind of mimes that action, and of course nothing's coming out. In a shot like that, it all has to be planned and timed correctly so that all of the action kind of mimics that event of the flames being blown out and catching Dracula's cape on fire.
Dracula gets caught on fire, ticked off, and hucks him across the room. When you want to do a transition from one thing to another, if you can make a cutaway that doesn't really look like a cutaway, it makes our job a lot easier and it saves money and the producers are happy. Of course, it kind of helps that Anna stands up right at the point where we want to make that switch. So we took our digital double of the fire breather guy and our animation group, hucked him through the digital air, and then we had our simulation team go and have his clothes move, and our lighting team try and match the lighting of the ballroom set.
The real fire breather was walking out over here, so we have to go through frame by frame and paint him out from the scene.
And then here on set at ILM, they shot some brilliant fire elements where they actually took a dummy and started spraying fire on it. They even kind of rotated that action to kind of mimic the action that's in the plate. And then we could start integrating those fire elements and stacking them up.
We couldn't put any sort of rigging in there that would allow us to accomplish the trapeze work that we wanted to do, because Deborah was in fact prepared, and what we initially set out to do was to do all of the trapeze work live on the location, but the restrictions of the location required that we move to visual effects.
This is his point of view, so you can look right, you look right above, not right and left. Try to look right above it. He's coming in, he's rocking in, he's grabbing you and fly up. So I think you just gotta brace yourself and throw back, maybe.
If you could do it while you were shooting it, it would create its own problem because it's hard to do wire work and it's hard to do these things, but at least you would know what you got. Instead, what we had to do was we had to shoot plates there. What we got there at the church would be a background plate where you would just see the dancers in the background, knowing that we were going to add hue or a digital double later in the sequence. There was some storyboarding. There were a couple of shots that were previs. The shot where he basically off-screen hits the trapeze artist and then he goes off on the trapeze. That shot was pre-visualized. Pre-visualization is something that you do on a computer ahead of time to sort of work out exactly what the shot is.
We had to pre-plan the shots, work closely with Steven, they designed what the shots were. Those shots were then looked at by ILM, and then ILM comes up with the technical approach. They'll talk to stunt, special effects people, they'll say, all right, well, what can you do here? What can you guys give us, and what can we do?
Everything you're talking about is digital. That we can't do is digital with the first.
Well, no. What I do is have him, yes, of course. But I have to be digitally switched.
Yeah, I guess that's what. We had to make sure that we photographed it with a camera move that we thought would match what an acrobat would do. In Los Angeles, they would shoot acrobats against blue screen, and they would also shoot Hugh or his double going through a certain amount of acrobatics as well. In some cases, we got totally digital doubles, the ones where they flip and double flip. All of those types of things were done as computer graphic characters. We had cases where Hugh would swing up the camera, slow motion, he'd turn around, the blades would pop out, so he's going to cut this thing. Well, Hugh's not actually holding on to anything, so we have to add the blade popping out in his hand. He starts to turn, so that was done on wires against blue screen, overcranked. Now, one of the problems you run into is he's actually supported by a wire here, not actually holding on. So in some cases, we have to kind of cut off his real arm, the image of his real arm, and pivot it, so it looks like he's truly holding up his body with the one arm.
Anna! Wake up!
The scene where Kate gets picked up by Van Helsing, that's all digital doubles in that particular scene. Why don't you tell us what you want to see?
Well, here's what we're trying to accomplish with that might be really cool. Is you see Hugh and Kate, they fly up, and they let go, and we pan them, they land and slam into that wall. Okay. Full body. And then the shot we're doing now, we overlap that a little bit tighter as they go, bam! And then they start having their conversation. And then they come back around and look, and we see it. What's happened? What's going on down here?
Okay. There's a shot that's used in the trailer over and over and over again, which is not in the movie. And it's a shot of Hugh and Kate Beckinsale as he lifts her up into the balcony. And the reason we didn't end up using the shot in the movie is because, unfortunately, the way the plate was photographed, it never really looked convincing. So because of that, we were sort of boxed into a corner, and we cut the shot from the movie.
This should just be beauteous. Here it is, 6, 1, and